Retrospect encourages us to reflect on our stories, our histories, and our past experiences as we uncover the wisdom that shapes our future possibilities.
Gentlemen, hello everybody. Now that I'm approaching 70 years of age, I sometimes find myself thinking back to key decisions I made at different points during my life. Were they good decisions? Did I go about implementing them well? Am I now pleased that I made them? Today I'd like to share thoughts about a decision I made nearly 40 years ago to change careers in pursuit of a dream. And I'd like to share some thoughts for anyone out here who might have a dream you'd like to pursue on your own. When I was in high school in the early 1970s, my career plan was to go to college, go to law school, and become a corporate lawyer. I was looking for a secure and stable career, as guided by my family, and the idea of being a lawyer made perfect sense to me. Not that I actually questioned it, but it made sense. I had other interests, certainly. I loved international relations and creative writing, but I was going to be a lawyer, and I thought maybe I could one day negotiate international deals or something. And as for creative writing, that could be a hobby. So I went to Princeton University. I majored in politics, concentrating in Russian studies, which totally fascinated me. I even earned a fellowship to go study in the Soviet Union, which I did. And by the end of college, by my senior year, professors were encouraging me to apply to graduate school in the field of Russian studies. But I had my career plan of becoming a lawyer. So I went to law school. I went to Harvard Law School, where, to be honest, I hated most of my classes, but I loved my extracurricular work, engaging in legal research and writing in support of activists in the Soviet Union who were fighting for human rights. In my spare time, I read novels and tinkered with writing fiction, but I kept focusing on becoming a corporate lawyer. So I have a surprise for you. After I graduated law school, I became a corporate lawyer. That's right. And I was hired by a prominent Boston law firm. The only problem was I didn't like that job, nor did I like my second law job. My third law job, inside a corporation in their legal department, actually turned out to be a good one. I had a very kind boss who was a wonderful mentor. Senior management promoted me quickly, promoted me to general counsel and senior vice president. I was running a legal department and a second department. They paid me so generously. I had achieved my high school, college, and law school career plan. I had done it. The only problem was I didn't want to go to work every day. It wasn't the right career for me. Well, I thought, who really likes working? Maybe I should look forward to retirement in 35 or 40 years. In retirement, I'd have the time to devote myself to what I loved most, reading and writing. What a dream that would be, to spend all day being a full-time writer, immersed in my own thoughts and imagination, shaping visions on the page, sharing them with other people, maybe providing pleasure or comfort or even inspiration, the way so many authors had provided inspiration and joy to me. Thinking that way, I finally realized that for as long as I could remember, every time I'd walk into a bookstore or a library, a confident voice inside me would say, "Hey, look at all these books. Look at all the people who wrote them. Why can't you?" But then another little voice, a scared little voice, an insecure little voice would say, "Yeah, but what if you try writing and you fail? Then you will have lost a dream. Maybe it's better never to even try in the first place." Aha. Had that little voice, that lack of confidence, been holding me back all those years? I think so. So I asked myself another question. What good was having a dream if I never pursued it? And another question, the key one, would I rather try and fail than never try in the first place? My answer, I really wanted to give it a shot. So I began to plan. I researched the myriad ways that writers shaped their lives and earned money. It wouldn't be easy, but something I could do right away was start saving so that I could have enough to get myself off the ground in a second career. So I chose to live below my means. I didn't buy the expensive Mercedes that my colleagues were encouraging me to buy. I stuck with my efficient Toyota. I didn't sell my small condominium and buy a big house. I didn't get a vacation home on Cape Cod or a second one in Florida the way many of my colleagues were doing. I lived comfortably, but modestly, all the while saving and investing. And then I started thinking. I had to be honest with myself. Over the years, I had written lots of short stories, but I'd never written a full-length book. Short stories didn't make money. In order to support myself, I would have to write a full-length book, and many of them. Could I do it? So I made a deal with myself. If I can write a full-length novel and still want to write more, I'll give up my law job. For 2 years, I spent nights, weekends, vacations, furiously writing a novel set in the Soviet Union. This project brought all my interests together. I was obsessed with it, but I loved every minute. And after 2 years, I finished the novel, and I honored the deal with myself. I left my law job. For a few years, I wrote and published short stories, but I found earning a living as a writer was harder than I had anticipated. Now, I had kept up my law license for 10 years after leaving law as my backup plan in case I needed it, but I wasn't yet ready to go back to working as a lawyer. So I went to graduate school instead, to the Vermont College of Fine Arts, where I earned a Master's of Fine Arts in writing so that I could deepen my writing skills, but also so that I could get the credentials I needed to teach writing at the college level. For 30 years, I taught creative writing and continued to write. I've published dozens and dozens of short stories, several collections of short stories, several novels. My translations of contemporary Russian literature have been published as well. And in the fall, my memoir about my human rights activism in the Soviet Union will be my 10th published book. Thank you. I pursued a dream. I planned. I took practicalities into account. I pivoted when I had to. I went back to graduate school, which was a detour I had not anticipated but needed to do. But for the bulk of my working life, I've done what I love, and it's been a privilege. So if anyone here has a dream, I'd encourage you to think honestly about what your options are for making that dream come true. Which practicalities must you take into account? If you plan and give yourself the time to implement that plan, you'll stand a really good chance of making your dream come true. I wish each of you much joy in the pursuit of whatever it is that matters to you. Thank you.